All right, what is that well-dressed fool doing with his mouth when he's lifting it? Is it even possible that he's breathing and bracing correctly? More on that in a moment. Coming up, 8 tips on how to breathe and brace the right way when lifting heavy weights. Also, the number 1 mistake. So here we go. The first 4 tips are going to be tips on what to do when breathing and bracing. The last 4 tips are going to be what not to do. In other words, common mistakes that people make when lifting. Tip number 1, breathe in at the start of the movement. Hold that breath throughout the entire lift. Breathe out at the end of the movement. If the bar is moving, you're not breathing. Remember, breath is support. What does this look like? For example, on the squat, take a breath in at the top, start the lift, go down, come back up, release your breath. What does that look like on the deadlift? By comparison, take a breath in at the start of the movement when the bar is on the floor. Hold that breath all the way up to the top, including at the top. Hold your breath all the way back down as you set it down very quickly, and then you can release your breath. The bench press is probably the one exception where you might actually do multiple reps on one breath, but don't take this as a test of your manliness or womanliness or anything like that. Don't pass out trying to do an entire set of 5 on one breath. Tip number 2, how do you hold that breath? You hold that breath using something called a Valsalva maneuver. In other words, a forced pushing of your breath, a forced holding of your breath against a closed glottis. Don't know what a glottis is? That's okay. Nobody else does either. It's an opening in the back of your throat. So just think of holding your breath in your throat. Or better yet, tell yourself to say the word hic, H-I-C-K, hic, and hold that C-K at the end. If you do that, if you hold that, you're doing a Valsalva maneuver correctly. Hic. Tip number 3, while you're performing that Valsalva maneuver, you brace, you get tight, you get rigid, however you want to say it. You contract, you tighten every single muscle in your midsection, in your trunk. Pretend that you are about to get punched from 6 people on all sides, all at the same time. Tighten every muscle in your midsection to protect you against getting punched. Hold those muscles tight, flexed hard, flexed rigidly, all the way down, all the way back up. Or in the case of the deadlift, all the way up, then all the way back down. Tip number 4, use a belt. Among other benefits, a belt gives you really nice proprioceptive feedback about what you're doing with the muscles of your midsection, with the muscles of your trunk. It allows you to brace, to use those muscles harder, more efficiently, not less efficiently. Really opposed to using a belt, just religiously opposed to using a belt, that's fine, that's cute, it's adorable even. But my recommendation is going to be use a belt. All right, now on to the mistakes. Tip number 5, or mistake number 1, breathing out at the top of the deadlift. Listen, you're not hanging out at the deadlift for that long. You're not going to run out of air. This is a difficult habit to break, however, even if you know about it. So remind yourself to lift silently. In other words, all throughout the deadlift, especially at the top, you shouldn't be making any noise. You can perform a very long rep on the deadlift, all on one breath, and still set it down afterward. Breath is support. Hold that breath till the bar's back on the floor. All right, tip number 6, or mistake number 2, actually pushing down against something. We sometimes use the phrase bear down to get tight, but it's not actually, that could be a little bit of an error in the way of your thinking, right? You're not actually trying to push something down. You are certainly not trying to push something out. If you have ever pooped your pants while squatting, you may be bracing incorrectly. So if you have done that, or if you have been at risk of doing that, you may need to remind yourself to bear in or bear upward. Remember, you're squeezing all your muscles almost as if you're trying to implode, moving in. So don't bear down. Instead, if necessary, remind yourself to bear in. Likewise, you don't push out against the belt with your muscles. You just get those muscles tight. You just flex those muscles. Don't push out against your belt. Tip number 7, or mistake number 3, don't overcomplicate it, all right? Don't worry about this like 360 degrees of breathing or whatever else you see out there on the internet about like filling the space around your limbs and your organs and around your belly and around your spleen with oxygen and stuff like that. Don't overcomplicate it. Just take a breath, get tight, hold that breath, start the movement. Likewise, don't breathe in on the way down and breathe out on the way up. That's old 90s fitness magazine stuff. You know how to do this. You have been doing this for years. If you've ever pushed a stuck car or done anything hard, you've always done the same thing. You get up against something that's hard to move, like a car that's stuck, for example. Nobody does this. Everybody does this. And they try to push the car. That's all that we're trying to do here. Before we move on to tip number 8, bonus tip, don't say the words core and activate, just ever. Especially don't say the word core, unless you are talking about the center of the earth, the center of an apple, or you are a personal trainer wearing a too tight polo shirt, holding onto a clipboard, having your poor, unsuspecting client do something with a Bosu ball. Just don't say the word core. It is a foul-mouthed fitness word. It has been ruined by the fitness industry. So if you're going to talk about your midsection, just say midsection, just say trunk. You can just say abs. Yeah, I know there's more going on there than just your abs, but man, please don't say core. And tip number 8, our last mistake, perhaps the number 1 mistake, you don't hold your breath with puffed out cheeks. If you're doing that, there's a very solid chance you're actually holding your breath against your lips. So you should not be doing this. Remember, you should be able to do this with an open mouth. In fact, it should have nothing to do with what your mouth is doing, all right? Because you're holding your breath against a closed glottis in the back of your throat. So that idiot at the beginning of the video, believe it or not, while he's moving his mouth while lifting, is actually bracing correctly. A little bit lifting stupidly, yes, but actually bracing correctly the entire time because no air is escaping through the back of his throat. So don't hold your breath against puffed out cheeks. When in doubt, try performing that Valsalva maneuver with an open mouth and check to see if you can still do it. If you're doing it correctly that way, there's a solid chance that you're typically doing it correctly. All right, what did we leave out? Any tips or hints that you have found useful in the past? Any funny stories from your background? Let us know in the comments below. Maybe you used to be a breathing in on the way down, breathing out on the way up person. Let us know. As always, we hope this helps you get stronger and live better.